Welcome to the St. Louis Sportist Conversations, casual discussions about sports, life, and who knows what else.
And welcome to the Sportist Conversations from the local house bistro. You know, in the 80s and 90s, today's guest had one of the most eagerly anticipated lines in local St. Louis television every Friday night.
It's time for the Zippo Awards for the best, the worst, and the weirdest performances in the wild and wacky, wonderful world of sports.
That, friends, is the legendary Zip Rzeppa. Zip, thank you so much for joining us today.
Ron, a great pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in Wildwood, Missouri, and at the bistro, a place where we spend a lot of time.
Love this place.
Yes. So, tell us about the Zippo. I mean, for a period of time, that was the most anticipated feature in local news by a wide margin.
Yep, every Friday night and 10 o'clock. I can't tell you how many adults have come to me saying when we were kids, our dad let us stay up to watch the Zippo Awards on Friday night, even though it was 10 o'clock at night.
I remember people around town that would just talk about, hey, Zippos tonight. You know, it's kind of like, yeah, cool. And so, where'd you get the idea for those?
Well, you know, I was working in Saginaw, Michigan, back in the minor leagues, and a guy in New York named Warner Wolf was doing the best plays of the week.
Let's go to the videotape.
Let's go to the videotape. Yeah, so I saw that. I said, that's a pretty good idea. So I started the best plays of the week in Saginaw, which meant like free throw shooting and frisbee tournaments and snowmobile accidents and stuff like that. And then one time I put a guy dropping a pop-up right in the middle of the best plays, and everybody laughed. I said, oh, that's pretty good. So I made it the best and worst plays of the week. And at that time, there was a mascot called the San Diego Chicken who was new to sports in that day, and everybody laughed and put him on. So I made it the best, worst, and weirdest plays of the week. And then by the time we got to Boston, we put the music, the Root Beer Rag music under it by Billy Joel, 1981. And so by the time I came to St. Louis, it was pretty much intact and ready to go, and we rolled it out and it became a phenomenon.
It did. I was actually looking for some on YouTube. I think
There's hardly anything on. There's a couple that's, if you look real hard, you might find, but that's it. Back in those days, they didn't, they taped the sportscast, the newscast for like 1 year, then they had to tape over the tape. Everything was lost.
Pre-digital days.
Ron, I did 8,000 live television sportscasts in 5 different cities at 6 different television stations. I have 0 tapes of myself doing the sports. They just didn't save it.
No, and that's like, you look back at I think it was one of the Super Bowls they taped over.
Yeah, maybe.
Or it's like an original but some major game from around that period of time. It's like, oh, we needed the tape. Okay. Right. So, probably not a lot of people know that you played Division I college basketball.
I did. Although played is a relative verb. I was on a major college basketball team, sat on the bench, I was in the huddles, I was there, and rarely I would get an opportunity to see time on the court.
But you decided that this was a goal, and
yes.
you worked awfully hard for that goal.
I was 5'9", I had no size, no speed, no quickness, no jumping ability. Other than that, I was pretty good.
That sounds like it, yeah. Good court sense.
So I'd go down to the inner city of Detroit, my hometown, and play against the greatest competition you could find, like hours and hours, late at night in the summer times and everything, and came out, got myself in incredible shape, and harassed all the scholarship players and made the team as a walk-on at Boston University.
And you could shoot from the outside. That was kind of the strongest part of your game.
I could, but back in those days, they didn't have the three-point line. So all my long-range bombs were declared low-percentage shots by my coach.
I just saw a thing that they went back at LSU and watched all of
Pete Maravich,
his shots.
Many of them way out.
And they tracked with the three-pointer as he would have averaged like 59 points a game.
Yeah.
Or something.
I know, right? Yeah.
So but while you were there, obviously playing basketball was part of the Boston University experience, but you were there for education and journalism.
Yes, I figured I probably wasn't going to make it in the NBA by that point in time, so I thought, well, maybe I can become a broadcaster and report on sports. Mm-hmm. So I studied diligently at the esteemed College of Communications at Boston University with some interesting characters.
I was going to say there were a couple that people might know.
One was Howard Stern, the father of shock jock radio, but not at that time. At that time, he was just a jock on the local campus radio station, and I was doing the sports, and he was doing a music show, and there we were.
Did he still have the look going? Did he have like
long hair, just like that, down to the shoulders, same look.
And the other one?
The other one was a guy by the name of Bill O'Reilly. Yes, Bill O'Reilly. We worked on a campus newspaper together. Bill wrote news, and I wrote sports. And there we were, and we were all taking classes while we weren't doing radio or doing the newspaper. So fun days.
Yeah, and oddly enough, what we're about to talk about, I was trying to think, how many people that I went to college with have I got to work with? But one day you'd just been hired in Boston, and you look up.
It was Bill O'Reilly. 8 years after we left Boston University, we were hired the same day at the same television station, totally unbeknownst to each other. I show up for work, and O'Reilly's standing there. I said, "O'Reilly, what are you doing here?" He says, "They just hired me to do the news." "What are you doing here?" I said, "They just hired me to do the sports." I was like, "Really?" So there we were.
And it was not the number one station at the time.
No, it was the number 3 station. That's why they hired the two of us. They wanted to shake things up. The station was in last place, so they called in colorful characters like Bill O'Reilly to do local news and Zip Rzeppa to do the sports.
And that left the weather where you had the hammer.
Art didn't really fit in. They hired a guy named Art Horn. I mean, O'Reilly was just terrible to him. He was a vanilla, milk and toast kind of guy, and his name was Art Horn. So O'Reilly would try to cheer things up. And so at the end of a dull weathercast, he'd go, "All right, thank you. That was Art the Hammer Horn." Well, the hammer says it's going to rain, and I start running for cover. And people would just crack up. But O'Reilly would have all kinds of things like that. Like going to the break, the commercial break before sports, he'd say things like, this is the era of Larry Bird battling Magic Johnson every year for the NBA championship. So going to the break in sports, we'd be on the set, and he'd go, "All right, coming up next in sports, the man Larry Bird loves to party with, the Big Z, Zippo Awards." And Ron, we'd go to the break, and I'd look at O'Reilly and says, "O'Reilly, I never partied with Larry Bird." He goes, "I know, but the ratings just went up 3 points."
Yeah, exactly. You think anyone's changing the channel right now? So you actually hit onto something there. You were one of the legends, one of the all-time legends of the NBA, referred to you as Homeboy one time.
Yeah. Irvin Magic Johnson. Because I went back to my hometown back when I was in high school. Magic Johnson was in high school. No, I was actually, I was out of high school. I was in college, and I got a job in Saginaw, Michigan. I was a young broadcaster. Magic had won the state championship over my high school his senior year, in overtime, by the way. So my high school didn't quite come through, but it was an overtime game.
Yeah.
Took him to OT, and then he went to Michigan State. And, of course, it was in Saginaw, I covered the big battle between Michigan and Michigan State where he was going to go to school. And he decided to go to Michigan State, and I was at that press conference, and I did an interview for it, why Michigan State instead of Michigan and everything else. And then I covered him for 2 years, his freshman year and his sophomore year when he played against Larry Bird in the NCAA championship game, the most watched NCAA championship game ever.
And it will be for a long time.
Yes, I was with him then. So 8 years later, when I was in Boston, he came in to play against the Celtics. I was in the locker room before the game, and do some interviews, and he says, "Hey, homeboy." So I called him EJ because that was his name back home. They called him EJ, not Magic. I mean, he's Magic to everybody, but the people who knew him called him EJ. So I said, "Hey, EJ, how you doing?" He says, "Homeboy, how are you?"
That had to be just incredibly amazing to be covering that rivalry between those two teams.
It was incredible to be in the Boston Garden. I never got out to L.A. to see those games, but in Boston, it was craziness. Just craziness.
Nicholson showing up like up in the box or something and doing his usual antics from time to time.
Yep.
But before Boston, we skipped a chapter there. You were in Cincinnati where you became a recording star.
Sort of, yes. I recorded the song which became the number one selling record in Cincinnati. It was called The Ballad of the Bengals. And the reason it was number one is because the Bengals, for their 2 previous seasons, had gone 4-12 and 4-12, and nobody had any hope for the team. All of a sudden, the Bengals caught fire, and I sensed something special with this team. So I wrote a song predicting that the Bengals would win the Super Bowl, and everybody kind of laughed, "Yeah, right." And they kept winning and winning and winning. They went to the AFC Championship game. They won, and they made it to the Super Bowl. So my song kept rising on the charts because in particular they were in the Super Bowl. And no, it actually became the fastest-selling record in the history of Cincinnati because of the names of most of the players on the team into the song in rhymes and everything else. And that's on the internet. You can get that on the internet.
Yeah, now we'll post a link to that. And I listened to just a little bit, and you included the name of David Verser, who I had totally forgotten about, the wide receiver from Kansas, I believe.
Yes, indeed.
And that's good work getting the name of everyone in there.
Yeah, and Collinsworth was on the team. Chris Collinsworth.
Right.
He was on that team. Ken Anderson.
As we discussed one time previously at the Bistro, Charles Alexander, who is having his number retired this year. Did you know that at LSU?
Bengals? Oh, LSU. Yeah, it was LSU. Yeah. He was great at LSU. Yeah. Okay with the Bengals. Not great, but, you know.
Now, Pete Johnson carried the mail a little bit
he did.
for them.
And they had Archie Griffin, too, the two-time Heisman Trophy winner. He never was as great in the pros, but there he was. It was the Ohio State backfield, Pete Johnson and Archie Griffin.
That was bruising, yeah. That was no wonder Woody never passed at that time.
That's right. That's right. When you pass, three things can happen, and two of them are bad.
Two of them are bad, and 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I think I remember that.
That was
too.
it. Yep. I always remember. See, I was in Michigan. I hated Woody Hayes. I hated him. So, 1968, Michigan played Ohio State as they always do the last game of the year, and Ohio State was just killing them. They scored with like a minute or two to go to make it 48-7, and Woody went for two. And they made it to make it 50-7. So after the game, they asked Woody Hayes, "Why'd you go for two, Coach?" He said, "Because the rules wouldn't let me go for three." But the next year, Dan Deerdorf and the Michigan Wolverines, one of the biggest upsets in college football history, took out Woody Hayes, the number one ranked Buckeyes, and went to the Rose Bowl.
That is one of those, We've talked before on the podcast about the rivalries that have been cast aside due to all this conference alignment and all that Kansas and Missouri are finding a way to finally get back and play again. Yeah. But that Michigan-Ohio State, that will hopefully be with us forever. I can't see how it wouldn't be.
Yep.
That's just
what a history.
Yeah. And so when you were selling your number one hit, you had some non-traditional marketing methods for...
Well, the most memorable day was the day before the AFC Championship game. And the song is being played on all the radio stations because, remember, this is way before today's electronics. You couldn't get any song you wanted anytime you wanted on your phone. No, you had to listen to the radio. So there was an FM station that championed the song more than the others, so I put my fate with them. And the day before the championship game, they were playing the song. The Bengals were going to play in the AFC Championship game the next day. That's all anybody was thinking about was, are you going to go in the Super Bowl and win one more win and win the Super Bowl? And I got in a van, and the DJs on the air would say, "All right, the Bengal-mobile, which was a tricked-out van in orange and black stripes, is approaching a secret location. If you get there, Zip Rzeppa will be there with piles of his records. He's an autograph for them, and you'll get his record, but you got to be there soon because it's not going to stay long." So we would drive like a mall, park way away from the store because we didn't have a license to sell merchandise. And they say, "Okay, pull in the 4-inch mall. He'll be there right now." Cars would be driving off the road like crazy, and people running up the van. It was 3 degrees. I popped out of the van. My hand was freezing, and I'd sign those records. We'd jump back in the van and drive to another location before the authorities came and arrested us for selling merchandise without a license.
Yeah, before they shut you down. And that next day, I don't know if it's still the coldest playoff game in history.
It was 9 below zero, 59 below wind chill because it was 40-mile-an-hour winds with 9 below actual temperature. So they computed 59 below wind chill.
And I'm pretty sure it was John McKay that famously called the AstroTurf of that era fuzzy concrete.
That's about what it was.
So I'm sure getting slammed to the frozen fuzzy concrete, and that was
And ironically, the team they played with the San Diego Chargers, flying in from sunny, warm California.
Yeah.
And they were met by Max Montoya and Anthony Munoz, the Mexican connection, the offensive line, wearing short sleeves and 59 below zero. You guys cold, California? You guys cold? Bengals beat them 31-7 and went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that was Eric Coryell at its finest.
Yes,
so that was a very
that was 59 below zero. That'll take the air out of the ball.
Well, I always think in situations like that, and the irony now is that the Vikings have a dome. but I remember them talking about how when they would play the Rams in the championship games up there, the Vikings would say you could see the Rams' faces sag the second they just ran onto the field.
Yeah. But grand.
And then they build a dome. Go figure.
Right.
Go figure. So things were going well and doing incredibly amazing in Cincinnati. But then this opportunity comes up in St. Louis, and you have a meeting, a kind of unusual meeting in New York.
Yeah, I was out of work. I lost my job in Boston. I had just missed getting the sports director's job at ABC, WABC TV in New York. So I thought, okay, my career's okay. I had an agent by the name of Art Kaminsky, and I loved Art. Art represented Mike Schmidt and a number of baseball players. He had about 1/3 of the contracts in the National Hockey League. He had broadcasters like Forrest Sawyer and all these big people, Maria Shriver and everything, and he was my agent, and I liked Art. But this other agent said, man, this kid almost got to New York. I'd like to have his services. So he says, why don't you come and see me? So I thought, well, I'm out of work at the time. Flew down to New York, and his name was Alfred Geller. He was a big player, and he had this incredible office in New York City. It was a ballroom-sized room with no furniture except his desk, right in the middle of the room.
That's quite a picture.
And on the wall were all like art and all kinds of stuff, but no furniture. And so you sat right across from him in the middle of this huge room, and we talked.
And what did he tell you that kind of turned out to be a little bit prophetic about moving to St. Louis?
I said, I got this offer from St. Louis, but, I just missed in New York, and if I hang around, I might land a huge job. He says, well, you can do that, and you will eventually make it, but he says, as you know, slots are tough in the major markets. These people stay there for 20 years and everything else. If you go to St. Louis, you will never come back. And I scoffed at that. I said, well, I don't know anything about St. Louis, but, it's not like New York or Boston. I'll come back. I may go there for a year or two, but I'll come back. He goes, no, if you come to St. Louis, they will love you so much, and you will love it so much, you will never go anyplace else the rest of your life. So I didn't believe him, but I came to St. Louis, and he was a prophet. That's exactly what happened.
Did you ever have a chance to catch up with him and say, oh, by the way, you were right?
No, because I stayed with Art Kaminsky as my agent, so I didn't give him the job.
Yeah, but still, isn't it interesting when you look back in life and someone throws something like that out and you just look back like, okay, maybe I was being prepared.
Yes, he was a prophet.
So at this point in our story, Zip is headed to St. Louis, where things are about to get even more interesting. And at this point, we are going to take our commercial break, and Zip and I are coming to you from the Local House Bistro in Wildwood. They're our studio sponsors. We really enjoy working with them. So Zip, like I said, I think we qualify as regulars up here.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just 7 minutes away from this place, but Ron, if I was 27 or 37 minutes away, I'd drive to this place because I love the Local House Bistro.
It is an outstanding venue. So, yeah, you may find one or both of us in the bar or in the dining room.
Great TVs, always with sports on. It's really good.
7 TVs. You will never miss a play.
Wow,
7 in that main area. Actually, they've got new TVs here in the dining room and larger TVs at the bar. I don't know if you've seen those since Tim put them in. But
well, I didn't know there was 7 because I can only watch one at one time. As long as there's one in front of me, I'm happy.
That's true. And you and Keith and I watched the Four Nations Championship up here.
Yes, yes. All kinds of sports on TV.
Exactly.
It's just great.
It's a great place, and as far as the menu, you've got steaks, fish, appetizers, bar favorites like burgers, pizzas. Really like pizzas.
I love that margarita pizza. That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Stuff. My wife got the pesto pizza the other night, which I had never tried, and it was amazing.
I like the salmon too. You know that honey glaze you put on the salmon. That's good stuff.
So we hope you're all very hungry right now, and we hope you'll come out and see us here at the Local House Bistro. Great group will take care of you. You'll got Tim, Rob, Holly behind the bar, Whitney, Darian, Cheyenne, Dylan, and Cooper will bring your food to you with a smile. This is all at 16524 Manchester Road. Eat local, drink local, and love local. It's the Local House Bistro. And the St. Louis Sportists are also brought to you by First Coast Steel Buildings. And right now, our good friend Sandra Templeoff is going to tell us a little bit about First Coast.
Are you in the market for a barn dominium, house, garage, man cave, carport, or hobby shop? Wondering how to get started or where to go? Whatever you are looking to design, look no further than First Coast Steel Buildings. Give Jason and his team a call at 912-314-4848. They will guide you through the process, designing your building to fit your specific needs and budget. Call them today at 912-314-4848 or get inspirational ideas and start designing your own by visiting them at firstcoaststeel.com. Again, that's the number 1, coaststeel.com. Their low-cost buildings are fully galvanized steel, providing you with worry-free, low-maintenance requirements, integrity, quality, and a family-first approach. First Coast Steel Buildings, 912-314-4848 or firstcoaststeel.com. Discounts for military and first responders.
And we are back at the Local House Bistro. My name is Ron Cook, and I am very excited to be joined by St. Louis legend Zip Rzeppa today. So Zip, a story that you and I were talking about back in '83, just before you got here. I had a baseball game, and my mom met my dad and I as we came in, and she said, the Cardinals traded Keith Hernandez. And my dad said, no, that's not right. You didn't hear it right. And we go in, and Mom was right. And we were thinking, this is the guy that got the hit that won the World Series less than 8 months before he was the MVP of the National League. He had 344 in '79, and we traded him for Neil Allen. Now, of course, later we found out all sorts of things about that, but that was just one of the great cosmic shocks of my life. So in your time in St. Louis, what would you say are some of the cosmic shocks that you just did not see coming?
Well, I would say, I don't know if I didn't see them coming, but I think when the St. Louis football Cardinals left town and were gone, and then when the St. Louis Rams left town and returned to L.A., I was heartbroken. It was just incredible. How can we lose these football teams? And St. Louis is a good football town, but the problem was the owners.
Yeah.
Bill Bidwill and our friend Stan Kroenke. Just horrible guys that just took our teams away. Just destroyed me. It was just all broken up.
Do you think time is smiling more on Bill Bidwill because kind of the city and county couldn't get their act together, and they probably did need a new stadium for football?
Yeah, they did. But, the argument was he put such a poor product on the field year after year after year, who would want to go to see them,
Oh, Clyde Duncan was lots of fun,
Right. The draft was horrible. Great. He put George Boone in front of his old buddy George Boone in charge of the draft for years. And year after year, even they had decent draft picks because the Regulars were so bad, horrible draft picks. I remember when they drafted Kelly Stauffer.
Yes.
And Bernie Miklasz said the great line in the press room, my goodness, they drafted a girl.
Which you just never knew. You could go back to Steve Kozarkowicz in '79, who was one of the many people they brought in to take the job from Jim Hart. It kind of became like the guys they would draft to replace Elway, or the catchers the Cardinals would draft to take over for Yachty.
Right, exactly. So I investigated why they take Clyde Duncan, the wide receiver. So I pushed, I got inside the organization, and the answer was, well, he was really nice to the secretaries. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, is that what they're going on?
Yeah. Well, that's before analytics, I guess.
That's right. That was their analytics.
Wow. Yeah, and then the Rams. I just didn't want to let myself believe that they could leave again.
No.
Or that we'd lose, or I shouldn't say they would leave again, but that we would lose a second team.
Right. And we were willing to build them a new stadium at that point in time,
And it was going to be nice. It was going to be on the riverfront, and they had a sponsor. It was going to be the National Car Rental off the top of my head.
Whatever. It would have worked. It would have worked for sure.
Yeah,
Kroenke wanted to build that $5 billion stadium out in the sunshine, and nothing was going to stop him.
Yeah, well, and then there's the famous tape of Kevin Demoff before they even announced it, telling his high school reunion that the plan, which I believe was going to go to trial. So we just passed, and every day I see things that make me feel a little bit older. This one was the 35th anniversary of Whitey Herzog resigning in the middle of the 1990 season.
Yes.
And you and Whitey had an interesting relationship for a few years.
Well, we did, and it wasn't a good one for many years. I came to St. Louis in 1984. The Cardinals, of course, had won the World Championship in 82. But in 83, they were nowhere. 84, they were nowhere. 85, going into the season, they had just lost Bruce Sutter to the Atlanta Braves as a free agent. And I'm thinking, oh, my goodness. So I did a report from spring training down in Florida thinking, Tal Smith is the new baseball advisor to baseball operations. When he was with the Astros, he hired Bill Verdon to manage the team. When he was with the Yankees, he hired Bill Verdon to manage the team. So I'm down in spring training, and who shows up as a special instructor with the Cardinals that year? Bill Verdon. So I did a report that, if things don't go well for the Cardinals, the next manager of the Cardinals could just be Bill Verdon. I sent the report back to St. Louis. Now, Whitey Herzog never saw that report because you didn't have satellites in those days. You didn't have national networks putting stuff out there. He didn't see it, but some of his friends did see it, and they told him that Zip Rzeppa's trying to get you fired. So he approached me the next day, and he said, Zip, you're trying to get me. No, it was the first day of the season. I flew back to St. Louis. Spring training was over for me. We went back to work. First day of the season, in the clubhouse, going to do the post-game interviews. He says, Zip, I'm not doing the interview. You're trying to get me fired. And I looked at him and said, well, what are you talking about? You're trying to get me fired. I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not doing the interview, Zip. And he wouldn't do the interview. So I later found out that his friends had watched that report, misconstrued it, that I was trying to get him fired, and told him that, and that was it. So he says, I'm never talking to you again. So I said, yeah, he'll come around. And all season, he never talked to me. And that was the 85 season.
Which was one of the memorable seasons in Cardinal history.
Fortunately, I had a great relationship with all the players. So, because they like the colorful way I would describe the running Redbirds and glorifying the speed of the team, the whole thing and everything else, while the other guys were a little more sedate and reading the golf scores and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, So I had my interviews with the players. So next year I figured Whitey will talk to me. So he says, no, I'm not talking to you. So I went to Jack Buck and I said, Jack, I'm really sorry about this thing with Whitey. I didn't mean anything. You never saw the report. It really wasn't that bad. I wasn't trying to get him fired. I'll take care of it, Zip. So he comes back. He says, Zip, he's not going to talk to you. I said, really? He says, no. So another year goes by, he never talks to me. So the next year, we're down in spring training, and Bob Costas was down there. And he said, Zip, you're a good guy. I'll take care of it for you.
No, this would have been 87, which was another very good year.
I know. So Costas goes to Whitey. He comes back, later in the day. He goes, Zip, he's not going to talk to you.
Okay,
he said, I tried.
So that's two members of the two Ford C. Frick winners that
exactly
come to intervene on your part.
So the Cardinals go to the World Series again, and it's a great year, and we're all covering everything. And nobody really knew this because, I had interviews with players, and, you didn't have nearly as many interviews during that day. You only had 3 minutes to do the sports or 4 minutes to do the sports, and you had to get the highlights in and everything. So nobody really knew, but I knew, and some of the guys in the press corps knew.
Yeah.
So another couple years go by, and in 1990 in spring training, I go to Whitey. He goes, Zip, I think you paid your dues. I'll do an interview with you, whatever you want. So I said, wow, this is interesting. So he does this long interview with me. I said, I'm going to milk this. He says, come in the office, sit down. Let's not do it out in the field. Let's sit down. So I sit down with him. We do this long interview. I asked him everything about how he came to St. Louis and how he and Gussie Busch used to eat beer sausage out on the farm and talk about what the team needed and all this thing. He goes on and on and on. I said, this is gold. So I waited until the May rating book that year, where the rating books were big, and I did a 10-part series with Whitey Herzog.
Wow.
Every show, 6 and 10, 6 and 10, 6 and 10 for 2 weeks. Did this incredible interview his whole career. And about 5 or 6 days later, Whitey resigned as manager of the Cardinals. And I just thought, he could see this coming, and he thought, well, I'm going to leave my legacy. I'm going to tell Zip about number one sportscaster in town, the whole story, and he's going to leave it like that. And then, so that was it. And Whitey and I had a great relationship the rest of our lives.
Yeah, a super nice guy. But it's kind of like maybe he was just getting his version of his side of the story on the record. And as you said, at the time you had the number one cast. So
yeah. Well, Whitey never cared for the TV guys, any of them. I mean, granted, I was his least favorite, no doubt. But he didn't like us because the writers were with the team 162 games a year, and he thought the pretty boy faces would just show up, now and then and do an interview and make more money than his buddies, the sports writers. And so he didn't have much use for the sports TV guys in general.
Yeah.
So I think crushing me gave me a little extra pleasure, I guess. I don't know.
So things are going well. We mentioned you had the number one sportscast, and were I would say the most recognizable local news personality in St. Louis at the time. And so this next question, if I didn't ask it, everyone would be like, "Why didn't you ask him about this, Ron?" At the height of your popularity, you end up walking away. Why?
Ron, a couple of things. I was burnt out. I was just burnt out. I mean, I signed the biggest contract in the history of St. Louis when I jumped from Channel 2 to Channel 4. It was a 5-year, no-cut, guaranteed deal in 7 figures, $100,000 signing was unheard of in the 1980s, but I was expected to work. I was doing the 5 p.m., the 6 p.m., the 10 p.m., 5 days a week, a half-hour show on Sunday night from 10:30 to 11 o'clock. The Big Red was in town, so on Saturday, my day off, I'd be getting on a charter flight, flying with the team for the next day's game, coming back and doing the Sunday night show. I had no life, and I was exhausted. I was just burnt out. I loved the job, but I had no life outside of sports.
Yeah.
And I said, I gotta have a life. I was 43 years old in my prime and as a television sportscaster, and I quit. I just had to walk away.
Yeah. So I imagine there was some shock when you made that decision.
Yeah, why would a guy walk away from that? I mean, all the guys think, that guy's got the greatest job in the world. I'd do anything to have his job, and so on. And I loved the job, but I just couldn't take the hour. I said, look, you let me do the sports at noon, I'll stay forever. They said, Zip, we don't even do the sports at noon.
There is no
the games
sports
are at night,
Right. So what time would you get home from the 10 o'clock newscast?
Well, I was kind of a workaholic. When the show would end at 10:30, I would watch our show. Then I would watch the competitors' shows on tape to see how we did compared to them. And then I was a sports director, so I was assigning the sports reporters the next day. Then I was reporting to the news desk where I needed cameras to do the interviews or do the stories or shoot things during the day. So it was always like midnight before I get out of there.
Mm-hmm. But and that was back also in the days of, if I can remember, Larry and Julius, it was your 24-hour news source. So you probably had a hit or two to do,
Yeah, some of that stuff. So I was exhausted. But at the same time, it kind of coincided with a downturn in my personal life that coincided with a conversion to a deeper relationship with God. And
that's what I was going to say next. It was like, I've read your fantastic book. It's called For a Greater Purpose, and I highly, highly recommend it. It's a great read. And it almost seems like in some ways that, like, a really powerful chapter of your life, you just kind of excelled into this new life after you left TV sports.
Yes. Well, when I left TV sports, I was doing a nationally syndicated radio show for a short period of time, and it went off the air. We took a shot at it, didn't work, lost a lot of money. I was engaged to be married. The engagement broke off. I love my family. My dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, which he had for 8 years before he passed away. I'd given up my TV job. I had no job, and I just needed to get closer to God. And a priest who I'd never known and never met before gave me a call. He said, well, I need somebody to do some evangelization in the inner city of St. Louis. And he sent me into the inner city with a holy man from Ireland named Declan Duffy, who had been miraculously healed of multiple sclerosis at Lourdes. And we headed into the most crime-ridden, drug-infested, nasty neighborhoods you could ever imagine. and we got out of our car for 2 hours every week, and we rang doorbells and asked people if they'd like to learn more about the Catholic faith, because we were Catholics. It was quite an experience.
It sounds like it, and I can't really imagine what might go through your head or what emotions you might feel in the seconds between knocking on that door and the door opening. That had to be somewhat interesting.
Well, the first house we went to, all the blinds were drawn tight in these neighborhoods, even though it was the middle of the day, because of all the drug deals and drug dealers and shootings going on there. So we'd knock on the door, and the blinds would go up an inch or so, and we'd read the lips of the guy inside, and we'd go like, Jehovah's Witnesses. Nope. We go to the next house, knock on the door, blinds would go up, we'd read the lips and go, detectives. We're two little white guys, this old African-American neighborhood.
Yeah.
So we went to the third door, knocked on the door, blinds went up, guy didn't say anything, blinds went down, all of a sudden the door whips open. And this giant African-American brother looks at Declan, looks at me, and he says, "Hey man, you Zip Rzeppa, you come to put me on the Zippo Awards?" I said, not exactly.
That's a good ace in the hole to have, you know, is the...
But Ron, it was a great experience. We did that for 4 years, 50 weeks a year, rain, snow, heat, cold, everything. And we just had some great relationships, few conversions, and it was wonderful just with relations to people, our brothers and sisters in Christ. That's what it was.
Yeah. That was, and you had some interesting moments out there as well in terms of, I mean, so you mentioned that there were a number of parishes. Was it the 4 or 5 most economically depressed parishes or something that you were working in?
Yeah.
That's certainly the work of the Lord there.
Neighborhoods, yes.
Yes. So you serve your church and your faith, and you've actually raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in different ways to kind of help people improve their lives, in terms of housing, in terms of jobs, in terms of just things like that. You want to talk about that for just a second?
Yeah, I worked at Goodwill Industries, Metropolitan Employment Rehab Service, merged with Goodwill Industries, became MERS Goodwill, and it is today. And my job was, as a humble job developer, was to help people with mental and physical disabilities find jobs. Most of them were part-time jobs to supplement their Social Security disability income. But it gave them the dignity of working, getting up in the morning, having some place to go, feeling good about themselves, and serving people. So it was a great, great job, and it really changed my life, working with people.
And so after you've done all of this good and you've helped all of these people, there is a company, and I am going to attempt to pronounce it right, and I know you'll help me if I don't. Mater Media?
Mater Media.
Close.
It's the Latin word for mother.
Okay.
Mater Media.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I felt a call back to my broadcasting, to my journalism days, to my roots. In 2012, my mother had passed away. I inherited some money, not a heck of a lot of money, but some money. So I said, I'm going back to my roots. I'm going to write a book. So I wrote a novel called My Rock and Salvation. It was about a young man in St. Louis, fictional, trying to make it in the rock world out of a place that isn't exactly the rock capital of the world.
It is not.
And he had a friend of the St. Louis Rams, who were in town at that time, who was fictionally signing a huge contract. He was the greatest wide receiver in the NFL, and he was coming to St. Louis, and he was the pal of the would-be rock guy. And it was all about the Catholic girls that wouldn't go to bed with him, that shocked them, because all the girls went to bed with them. And we put a lot of action in there because I wrote it for teens, for young teens. So we had a murder and a near murder and a near-death experience and an angel character and all kinds of stuff going on. And we ended up getting 20,000 copies of that book in the hands of young people. The problem was the adults liked it better than the young people. Adults told me, we cried at that story. That was a beautiful story. The kids, I think, kind of missed it. But, I wasn't a teen writing for teens and whatever. But I love that book. It's out there. It's on the internet. You can get it. My Rock and Salvation.
Interesting. So
it was a year later that I wrote my autobiography, For a Greater Purpose, which you alluded to earlier.
Right.
And, the only problem was I didn't die soon enough, Ron. That was 2015. A lot's happened in the last 10 years.
Say, you're due for an update.
Now I gotta fill in the blanks. Because it's been busy.
A second edition, perhaps.
Maybe.
Yeah. So let's talk about the here and now. Let's move into the wild and wacky world of sports. The St. Louis Cardinals, we knew it was going to be an interesting season coming into this year. And I think they have overperformed. I think everyone would say that they instead of being 6 or 7 games over 500, I think we would have been surprised if they were 12 or 14 under.
Sure. They started out 14 and 19. I thought, that's about right.
Yeah. Does this feel like a playoff team to you?
Sadly, no. I really admire how they've overachieved. I mean, it's a spunky group of players. I mean, I think you got to give Ali credit, and the players, I don't know, they've really done as well as they possibly can do. But, I mean, you're going to be a playoff team. You got to have a rotation. I mean, really? Miles Michaelis? Really? Eric Fetty? I mean, you got one legitimate guy, Sonny Gray. Yes, Liberatore and Palante are young guys, and they have their moments, but I mean, no playoff team's going to fear going against those guys, in games 2 and 3 of the playoffs.
No. Well, and then, imagine, God forbid, if we had to use like Sonny Gray to win a game to get in the playoffs, and
then you got 2, 3, and 4.
Well, the line we used on the podcast last week, and I can't remember who said this, is we have a box of chocolate rotation. You never know what you're going to get when you send those guys out there.
And the lineup, I mean, Herrera's been a nice surprise. I mean, Brendan Donovan's done all he can. I mean, Mason Wynn's a good player. They had some talent, but I mean, the leading guy in the team has 12 home runs or something? I mean, there's like 6 guys in the Cubs who have more than 12 home runs.
Yeah. And that's another thing. It's like the Cubs have hit the accelerator while we're kind of, I don't want to say treading water, but in some ways I guess we are. And that weekend series in Chicago was just kind of depressing.
Yes, 11-3 and 11-0 those 2 games.
So, and I like that it was center fielder Victor Scott II that came up with the line that they are youngry.
Love that.
And I think that's
young and hungry. Yes,
but then I want to give credit to Derek Gould, who was talking about the fans, and he said they're fangry. The fangs are out and they're angry. and to that point, today it came out that the Cardinals are now 15th in Major League Baseball in attendance. As recently as 3 years ago, they were number 2 in attendance.
Breaks my heart.
Did you ever think you'd see this many empty seats at the stadium?
No, it really surprises me and depresses me. I think there's a lot of factors. It's not only the poor performance of the team the last couple of years, but the situation downtown. People are afraid to go downtown, whether that's realistic or not. A lot of people, I think people from other states are not as attractive to coming into St. Louis for the weekend during the summer anymore. Yeah. So they're not coming in. So a combination of factors. I mean, I've heard of broken windshields and parking lots down there of people I've known to go down to the games. I mean, who wants to take the risk to do that?
When you can pop on Fangraphs, or you can come up here to Bistro, or Fangraphs, FanDuel. And speaking of FanDuel, so the Cardinal Network, the network where you see the Cardinal games, is named after a gambling operation.
Yes, it is.
Coming before the end of the year to the state of Missouri is legalized sports betting. And when I made my Sportist predictions for this year, mine was that there would be at least one scandal involving a player, which last week we had a guy throwing ball 1, and apparently there was a large amount of action placed on him throwing ball 1 in a certain inning. So the toothpaste is kind of out of the tube. How do you see all of this kind of shaking out?
Yeah, I don't like it, Ron. I don't like the gambling. I just don't. Gambling is a something for nothing philosophy. You put your money down expecting to get something. If you bet on a team and it wins the game, you win money. What have you done to earn that money? Nothing. So, and that's the way it is with everything, no matter what you bet on. So I just don't like it at all, but it's just blowing up in every city of the country, in almost every sport. Probably going to get worse, continue to get worse. And, it's just not sports. I mean, to me, I think sports is great competition. I love sports. I love to watch sports. I love to watch the competitive angles of it and the strategy and the competition and everything. But, why should I be making money because something does or doesn't happen? I just don't think it's good.
No, and it certainly opens itself up. We were just talking talking about college football when you have those point spreads that get so outrageous in the early going, and if they, tell a kid, hey, we'll top off your NIL here as long as you pay the backup quarterback to throw a couple interceptions and keep it under 51 or whatever.
Bad news.
At any rate, so we're going to try something new here in our conversations. We have developed what we call the Sportist questions. So these are kind of quick hits. 5 questions. And the first one, what is your favorite sports moment that you have seen in person at any point in your life?
I have to say Game 6 of the World Series in 2011.
Epic.
I was there. I mean, just incredible. Down to the last strike in the 9th inning, and David Freese hits it to the right field wall and triples in 2 runs to tie the game. Then the 10th inning, hit down to the last strike again, and Lance Berkman comes through. And then the 11th inning, David Freese into the center field grass, and the place goes wild.
Absolutely wild.
Never experienced anything as exhilarating as that.
And the ups and downs. I remember Hamilton just crushing that moonshot, to give the Rangers the 2-run lead. And I will say, because you tune into the Sportist for stuff like this, this is one of the great questions to stump people on. The winning pitcher in that game was Jake Westbrook.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
He came in and threw 1 inning and got 3 ground balls, which is exactly what
he would have stumped me. Yeah.
Exactly what he's supposed to do. So there you have it, Jake Westbrook. Question 2, what sports defeat or outcome crushed you the most at the time and still just gives you a twinge?
I'd have to say the Super Bowl in the 2001 season when the Rams lost to the New England Patriots. Such a heavy favorite. It was the greatest show on turf. The Rams were like a 14-point favorite, something in that range, and they lost the game. It was just heartbreaking. I mean, they came back, they tied it up in the fourth quarter, and I thought, okay. And then and John Madden was saying, well, they're just gonna sit on the ball, take it to overtime, but Tom Brady and Bill Belichick had different ideas, and they managed to get it into field goal range, and Adam Vinatieri kicks the winning field goal, and the Rams had lost a Super Bowl that most definitely should have won.
And I have blocked from my memory, was it Dre Bly that missed the tackle that gave them like an extra 15 yards? There was a defensive back for the Rams that had an open field tackle, and if he makes that tackle, he still probably go to overtime. But instead, no, that one haunts me to this day. If you could be, question 3, if you could be commissioner of any sport for one day, but what you put in place has to stay, which sport and what changes might you make?
Very interesting question. First of all, I'm glad I'm not commissioner of any sport.
Although Goodell does get a good paycheck, I will say that.
Oh, man. All the tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that guy's made for what, wearing a suit and showing up on draft day?
And he's married to an old St. Louis TV co-worker of yours.
Jane Skinner. I work with Jane. Jane was the overnight girl. She was the overnight woman doing the overnight cut-ins. Yeah. Very nice woman. It was like her first or second job in TV. And, I'd be hanging around until midnight doing sports. And Jane would be coming in to do the news and doing the little cut-ins. And she was very friendly, and I liked her. And she wasn't there long. And then I was stunned that a few years later, she married Roger Goodell.
Didn't see that one coming.
No. She wasn't worthy. I mean, I loved Jane. She was a nice woman.
Yeah,
but,
she went on to... She went on to Fox after that, which I think is where they met when she was in New York. All right, so back to you being commissioner. If you get to pick one sport and a couple rules, what do you think you'll look at?
I don't know. One rule I don't like is in basketball. I know it makes the games more exciting, but team goes down and they score with like 1.5 seconds to go, and then they call time and start get the ball in mid-court. Make them bring the ball up the court.
And going back, that actually, recently we were watching the 75 Celtics-Suns triple overtime game, and that was a situation when Gar Hurd hit the famous shot to send it into the other overtime. So they got the ball at half court. Exactly what you're talking. If they had to go the length of the court in 1 second, no way.
But I think the rules in a lot of sports have gotten better. I mean, I remember hockey. I grew up in Detroit. I mean, you had the 3 lines. I mean, 2-line pass
Two-line
was
passes.
like, you know, I mean, in the stoppage of play and along the boards, they tie up the puck all the time. You know, 27 face-offs in the first period and all that stuff. So the games have gotten better in a lot of ways.
The no-touch icing has helped too.
Yes, absolutely. Why wait till the guy skates all the way down and, you know.
And I think some of those, speaking of Detroit, I think some of those Detroit teams really enjoyed sending Bob Probert down to, you know, make contact with the guy that had just
Yes,
touched
I know. Just, yeah, you know, he's got to go and touch the puck. Oh, I'm going to touch him.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, Probert.
And I grew up with Gordie Howe, you know, the Gordie Howe hat trick, you know, a goal assist in the fight.
Yeah, which I think in St. Louis that might become a Jake Neighbors hat trick soon. So question 4. If you and 5 friends, we suggested 5 friends because there's 5 sportists, so hopefully you'd invite us, could watch a game, any game in history that there is video of, and you get to watch a replay of that game, what would it be?
I'd say Game 7 of the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals, the Blues against the Bruins.
Excellent choice.
Blues were such a big underdog going into Boston Garden, into the TD Garden there, and the Bruins fans were just ready to eat them up. And the Blues had come so far, and I just thought, if they lose this game, it'll be such a shame. And it was just so intense. And as you remember, in the first period, the Bruins were dominating, just dominating.
Yeah.
You know, and all of a sudden the Blues get a shot to the blue line, it goes in their head. And then with seconds to go before the period, they get another goal. Now they're up 2-0. Yes, they can do it. They can do it.
Yeah.
So,
and I just remember all of us walking around in that first intermission going, okay, stay cool, this might happen.
right.
So I'm going to admit,
Jordan Binnington
stood on his head.
Incredible.
Yeah. I guess what you might answer on that one, and I had the right sport but the wrong game. I thought you might have watched one of your old Boston University buddies with the Miracle on Ice. You want to tell us about your tie to the 80 Olympic gold medal?
Yes. I was the play-by-play announcer at Boston University hockey in the 70s. So when the 1980 U.S. Olympic team was playing against the Russians, who had beat them like 10 to nothing at Madison Square Garden, and they had no chance. My old buddy Mike Garuzione scored the winning goal against the Russians, and Al Michaels had the famous call, "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes. And Mike Garuzione, my old friend that I covered in college hockey, scored that goal. It was incredible.
And he was on a very good Boston University that played for the championship.
Yep. We went to the semifinals that year, the Frozen Four.
Right.
Lost to Herb Brooks' Minnesota team, ironically.
Very ironic.
They played for Herb Brooks that year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Ricky Mahar was on that team.
Oh yeah, that's right. Another
Rick
Blue.
Mahar and Mike Garuzione.
Wow.
At Boston University.
That's a solid team. So for question 5, for the future of sports, what excites you most and what concerns you the most?
You know, the competition is still great. I still love it. I mean, players have paid millions of dollars. I'm okay with that. I mean, people don't come to see the owner's own or the referee's referee. They come to see the players play. So if they can get their money, I'm fine with it. That's good. I love the competition. I mean, it's pure. It's good. Probably my favorite sports event now is probably March Madness. I just love to see the underdogs and the improbabilities of teams winning and everything, and every game, you know, all out and one and done and the whole thing. So I love the competition in every sport.
It is, you know, and it's probably, like we said, it's never going to reach that 1979 Magic and Bird ratings again. But in terms of being able, the thing that's different now compared to then is on Thursday you can sit down and have, you know, at a place like the Bistro with 3 or 4 TVs and watch games from 11 a.m. till midnight.
Love those days.
Those are outstanding. So, Zip, if people wanted to contact you to learn more about, I'm going to try it again,
Mater Media.
Thank you. How do they do that?
Well, they can go to matermedia.org. We're a 501c3, not-for-profit. So we publish books. We do small concerts with very talented musicians. We do a marriage experience to help married couples. And we work with major motion picture companies on major motion pictures. We've worked with some tremendous filmmakers who did Sound of Freedom. I don't know if you saw that movie about child sex trafficking. Tough subject, but a movie that needed to be done. It did $251 million. They made it for $14 million. Alejandro Monteverde, a tremendous director. He's got a new movie coming out in December called Zero AD, which is kind of like The Chosen on steroids. It's going to be about the birth of Jesus and King Herod trying to kill the baby Jesus when he was an infant. But what did that look like? Well, they dramatize it. Jim Caviezel, Sam Worthington, Ben Mendelsohn, Gail Gabriel Bernal, the daughter of Monica Bellucci, a tremendous cast.
Yeah.
Shot in Morocco. We helped to raise some money for that movie, and it'll be coming out on December 19th. But what we're really excited about is about a local kid named John O'Leary. The name of the movie is Soul on Fire. Soul on Fire. You may remember the Christian song 10 years ago by Third Day. The song's in the movie.
Good.
But it's all about a young man who was 9 years old. He was playing with fire in his garage. Not a good idea.
No.
Garage exploded. He was burned over 100% of his body, given less than 1% chance to live that night. He was taken to Mercy Hospital. Burns, 87% of the burns were third degree. And miraculously, he survived. And the late, great Hall of Fame baseball announcer Jack Buck championed him all along the way. Jack would go to the hospital at midnight after Cardinals games, and unbeknownst to anyone, he'd say, "Kid, you're going to live. Kid, keep fighting. Kid, when you get out of here, we're going to have John O'Leary Day at the ballpark." And inspired by Jack, the kid did live. He was in the hospital for 5 months, dozens of surgeries, fingers amputated on both hands, scarred for life except for his face. And the reason for that was his 8-year-old sister ran into a flaming house 3 times and threw a cup of water in his face to preserve his face.
That's courage.
It's a great, great film, and we got a great cast. My role was to act out scenes from the screenplay for potential investing, so you get a feel for the movie. And we got a lot of people in. There was a $10 million budget. Hollywood actors sacrifice their usual fees to act in this thing. They get money in the back end if the movie does well.
Right.
But William H. Macy is playing Jack Buck.
That'll be fantastic.
John Corbett is playing John O'Leary's dad.
Wow.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Northern Exposure, all those in. Joel Courtney, who is in Jesus Revolution and The Kissing Booth, heartthrob of college to women everywhere, is playing John O'Leary.
Wow.
It's a great movie. We got the trailer out 2 weeks ago, and for a while we had 5,000 views and 10,000 views, and then it's inexplicable. I don't know who's hitting it, but it's now, we're 2 weeks in, 14 days in, 1.7 million views of the trailer. 1.7 million this morning and counting. So we got a shot. Sony bought the distribution rights.
Cool.
So it's going to be in theaters all across the country. The release date is right in baseball playoff time, 10/10/25, October 10th. It's in a theater near you. And,
Is it going to have a premiere in St. Louis?
Yes. The premiere is going to be on October 2nd, 8 days before, at the newly renovated Powell Hall.
Oh, my.
They're putting $155 million in the renovation of Powell Hall. It's supposed to be done September 25th. We're praying for that. October 2nd, a week later, is the red carpet premiere. And the vision is to carpet Grand Boulevard with a red carpet leading up to Powell Hall.
That would be amazing.
So anyway, but the movie is so moving. I mean, it's about survival, medicine, medical miracles. It's about faith. It's about romance. How a kid without fingers could romance the most beautiful woman at St. Louis University, win her heart, marry her, have 4 kids, and then courage and persistence to become one of the great inspirational speakers in the country. A lot of people don't know that. He's spoken to 2 million people.
Wow.
His fee starts at $25,000, $30,000 just to show up.
Yeah.
And he gets it. He's spoken in 12 foreign countries. A great, great speaker, and it's his story, but it's also the story of his dad, who championed him when he was suffering as a kid, fighting for his life, who then had Parkinson's the last 30 years of his life. And at the end of the movie, it's the kid taking care of the dad.
Oh.
So it's the beautiful spiral of life.
Yeah.
You know, the circular of life. It's just, it's got so much in it, Ron. It's a kind of movie they don't make anymore. Everything these days is superheroes, special effects, blown up stuff, all
CGI,
kinds of stuff,
yeah.
CGI, or animated stuff. You know, but dramas don't play well. But this has humor, it has romance, it has irony, it's got family, it's got faith, it's got surprises. It's a terrific movie, and it's called Soul on Fire. So you can look at the trailer today and like it and comment. And we'll have it in theaters October 10th.
Outstanding. Well, we'll look forward to that, and hopefully there'll be some Cardinal playoff action going on at the time. But you know,
I know that would be good.
Yeah.
By the way, Ozzie Smith is in the movie.
Oh, cool.
But when they had to shoot the movie, and The Boy Was Burned in 1987, Ozzie was a player then, of course. He's probably like 28, 30 years old.
Yeah.
So they had another actor play Ozzie Smith because they couldn't make Ozzie look like he was in 1987. But at the end of the movie, the real Ozzie is in it, playing the role of like a Cardinals executive. He's on the field.
I love that.
Is Ozzie looking like Ozzie because he is Ozzie.
Yeah, he's hard to miss at this point in his life. So we will look forward to that in October. And again, people can certainly visit your website and learn more about what you're doing. Folks, this is an absolute legend in St. Louis, not broadcasting, but in St. Louis. Zip Rzeppa, thank you so much.
Ron, it's been a great pleasure being with you. Love this podcast.
Thank you. And that will do it for another episode of the St. Louis Sportist Conversations. Until next time, take care.
And that wraps another episode of the St. Louis Sportist Conversations. Please like and subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest episodes. The podcast can be found on all major platforms. And thanks for listening.